Shove a tape into the VCR, adjust the tracking lines until the neon colors stabilize, and take a trip back to the mid-1980s. The Sunset Strip was a total zoo, a chaotic wonderland of hairspray, spandex, and loud guitars. Most bands back then were selling a non-stop, brainless but amazing party lifestyle. But amidst all that superficial glam, Dokken stood out as a completely different beast. They get thrown into the generic hair metal bargain bin far too often today, and that is a massive injustice. They possess the level of musical sophistication and raw heavy metal power that most of their platinum-selling peers could only dream of achieving. When people talk about 80s metal, names like Motley Crue, Poison, and Red always dominate the conversation. Dokken usually gets mentioned as an afterthought, which drives me fucking crazy. They were operating on a completely different artistic level. While a lot of glam bands were relying on simple 3-chord progressions and studio gimmicks to hide their lack of technical skill, Dokken was delivering absolute masterclasses in melodic heavy metal. You had Don Dokken, who possessed one of the most soaring, clean, and melodic voices in rock history. Then you had the rhythm section of Jeff Pilson on bass and Wild Mick Brown on drums, both of whom provided an insane, driving foundation while singing flawless background harmonies. And of course, you had George Lynch on guitar. Anytime I hear George Lynch shred, my brain explodes at just how good that man is. To give you an idea of just how incredible their classic run of albums was, I broke down their definitive 80s quadrilogy. Breaking the Chains 1983, raw, hungry, European-flavored heavy metal with an underground edge before the big budget took over. Here you have classics like Breaking the Chains, Paris is Burning, and In the Middle. Tooth and Nail 1984, aggressive heavy metal mixed with dark, emotional songwriting and heavier riffs such as Into the Fire, Alone Again, or Just Got Lucky. Under Lock and Key 1985, which is probably Dokken's most iconic album because of the absolute pinnacle of polished 80s production, huge arena hooks, and massive mainstream appeal, which also had songs like In My Dreams, It's Not Love, or The Hunter. And lastly, Back for the Attack 1987, heavy ferocious guitar work, complex arrangements, and peak technical performance from the whole band with songs such as Dream Warriors, Mr. Scary, or Heaven Sent. The real magic of Dokken, and the main reason their music holds up so incredibly well today, came from the intense internal friction within the band. Don Dokken and George Lynch famously despised each other. They couldn't stand being in the same room together, let alone share a tour bus.
You see our videos we just perform.
Yeah, that's the best.
We're really not actors.
Yeah. Why do you suppose there
Except
are
for Don, he's an actor.
many...
We didn't write a record saying we're going to be heavy metal this time. Maybe one guy in the band thought that, but...
Don wanted the band to pursue a smoother, more melodic, radio-friendly rock sound. George, on the other hand, was a pure metal purist who wanted to tear heads off with heavy, aggressive, face-melting riffs. That ego clash created a beautiful, chaotic tension in the studio. It forced them to meet in the middle, blending beautiful vocal hooks with some of the most complex, blistering guitar work of the decade. The animosity between Don and George was legendary, but that exact hatred is what made the music so special. You could actually hear the struggle for dominance in every single track. George Lynch was a god among men in the guitar community. While players like Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads get all the mainstream glory, Lynch was rewriting the rules of neoclassical shredding. His instrumental track Mr. Scary is a masterclass in aggressive guitar playing. It feels heavy, menacing, and totally relentless. He wrote intricate, memorable riffs that gave Dokken a much darker, heavier edge than the typical pop metal bands of the day. If you want to experience the absolute peak of nostalgic 80s pop culture, you just have to look at Dokken's contribution to cinema. Their track Dream Warriors was written as the theme song for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors in 1987.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors opens today, and heavy metal man Dokken got involved when they wrote the title song Dream Warriors.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect movie for Dokken to do a soundtrack for. We're always writing songs about dreams and stuff anyway, so.
That song and its music video are iconic parts of the VHS era. The video features the band using the power of heavy metal and rock and roll to fight Freddy Krueger himself. It was a massive hit on MTV's Headbangers Ball, and it perfectly captured the fun, theatrical nature of the decade. It showed that while Dokken took their musicianship incredibly serious, they still knew how to play into the wild, over-the-top entertainment style that made the 80s so legendary. Despite achieving multiple consecutive platinum albums, they never quite reached the stadium status stratosphere of Bon Jovi or Def Leppard. I believe a few distinct factors contributed to them being so criminally overlooked in the grand scheme of rock history. The constant fighting between Don and George eventually tore the band apart right at their commercial peak in 1989, preventing them from capitalizing on their massive success. Because they had the big hair and filmed flashy music videos, critics lazily lumped them in with the superficial party rock bands, completely ignoring their superior musical craftsmanship. When the 90s arrived and grunge wiped a lot of hair metal bands off the face of the earth, Dokken was unfairly buried alongside the bands that actually deserved to fade away, such as Poison.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever.
I mean, seriously, how the fuck is Poison still so popular and big while bands like Dokken or Red faded away despite being 10 times better than Poison in every single aspect? Looking back at that era today, Dokken stands out as a beacon of true artistic talent. They were elite musicians who left behind a flawless legacy of melodic metal. Listening to Dokken today feels like finding a pristine, forgotten cassette tape in the glove box of an old Camaro. It is pure, unfiltered nostalgic joy, and it deserves way more respect than it gets.
Halen's Monsters of Rock, the biggest concert event of this year, or any year. Saturday, June 11th, gates open at 11, show at 1 p.m. at JFK Stadium. Starring Van Halen, special guests, the Scorpions. Also starring Dokken, Metallica, and Kingdom Come. Tickets now at Ticketron. All authorized Electric Factory agencies or charge by phone. Produced by Electric Factory Concerts. Van Halen's Monsters of Rock.